welcome back to another episode of Bella TV. I'm your host, Madison McHugh, and today I'm joined by the beautiful Jasika Nicole. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me, Madison.
Thank you so much for joining me. So, could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I was born April the 10th in
A
Alabama.
little bit.
How far back do you want me to go? No, I am an actor in mostly television and film, although my background is in musical theater. And I live in Los Angeles right now. And I am a maker. I really like to make things, and I like people to be excited and curious about making their life more beautiful in whatever way that looks. So acting is how I pay my bills, and making is how I nurture my inner spirit.
I love that. You need two little things in your life.
You do, you do.
So, how did you get started in the entertainment business?
Well, I had always loved. This is a great question. Did I always love performing, or did I get a lot of like attention and positive feedback from performing? I don't know how to untangle those things. But when I was a kid, my mom would always just praise me so much, and she was always excited when I would like sing and do dances for her. And so for so much of my, growing up, I was like, just because I like acting doesn't mean I have to do it as a career. Maybe I want to be an English major or this or that or the other. But at some point, I realized that I really did get a lot of out of performing. I love being on stage. I love telling stories. I'm a storyteller, and I loved telling stories in different ways. And I also love singing and dancing. So my background is in musical theater. I went to college for theater, and then I graduated and moved to New York City to try and have a career on Broadway. And I just ended up having a career in television and film, which I'm not mad about, because it pays better. It
Yeah.
certainly pays better.
And you
But I
go to
do.
warmer weather, so
I know, no, it's so true. I miss the collaborative process of theater a lot, though. It is what is missing in most television and film projects, I would say, unless you are a decision maker. But I've been really lucky to be on some really, really fun shows. And actually, sitcoms are kind of like the one television platform that is really close to theater, because there's a lot of, thinking on your feet and having to um, operate with these other individuals, especially if you have a live studio audience. I'm on Punky Brewster right now, and we did not have a live studio audience for our season 1 because, of course, we were filming during the pandemic, and that was not okay. But when you have a live studio audience, it just feels like you're doing like theater, really short theater for people.
yeah. So could you tell me more about your role on Punky Brewster and what your experience was like filming this in the
Yeah.
pandemic?
I play a character named Lauren, and she is Cherry's girlfriend. So this is no longer a spoiler alert because the show has been out. But Cherry, we're introduced to her like 3 decades later, after the original Punky Brewster that aired in the 80s. And Cherry has come out as a gay woman. And so Lauren is her very sassy, very fashionable girlfriend. She's a lawyer, and she actually ends up helping Punky out in a couple of ways, just with some legal things, with what she's working on with the adopted kids that she has. So that's kind of like the main introduction of Lauren's character. And shooting the show during a pandemic, I didn't like it. I was so happy to be working, and happy to be working on a show that was very safe. I would say we were probably one of the safest productions operating in Los Angeles. We had to get tested every single day. Even on days that we weren't working, we had to come in, like we had to get a clear test at least 72 hours before coming to set. So, they took a lot of pains to make sure that we were operating under the best guidelines possible. But saying that, one of the things about joining a production is that you get invited into this little family for a while. So you have all these other actors and you're hanging out with each other for hours each day and you learn about each other and you become friends or you become enemies. Who knows? But whatever it is, you develop these relationships with people. And that is very difficult to do with a mask on and a face shield on. It was hard to hear people, and then you couldn't see their mouths, so you couldn't try and like read their lips a little bit and interpret what they were saying. And then the face shield kept all the noise that you were making like backwards. And so it was just hard to meet people and get to know the people that I was working with. The first time that I saw anybody's lower half of their face was the day that we were shooting, because we have like a like 3-day rehearsal process, and then we'll actually shoot our stuff for 3 days. And I was like, that's what your mouth looks like? That's your smile?
It changes everyone's look.
Changes everybody's look. And I also realized I was getting exhausted from eyebrow emoting because they couldn't see my smile. And so I would be like this all the time to let them know I was like really responding to what they were saying. And I would have a headache at the end of every day. It was a lot. So again, I was very excited to be working, but I cannot wait till I get back to work on a show where there's like, no big major restrictions like that, because it is just, ugh, I don't like it.
So how was your role on Punky Brewster different than all the other roles that you've been in? Because you've been in some iconic shows.
I've been so lucky in my career, and this role was different. There's a couple cool things about it. The first major, I would say most important difference, is the fact that it's the first queer role I have ever played on network television. And I have been out like my whole career. I think I came out after my very first film that I did, which was Take the Lead, which was a long time ago. So I've always been like a very out proud Black actress in Hollywood. And I take it personally that I do not get offered more queer roles. I hate it. It's very frustrating. So I was so thrilled that this was like a queer role. It was really exciting to be able to help tell such an important story, because people do come out as adults or teenagers or whatever. And so being reunited with this cast of a show that I know you're too young to have watched it when you were a kid, but I was an audience member of the show when I was a kid. So it feels a lot like having a reunion, like a high school reunion. I keep telling people it's like a high school reunion that you actually want to go to, because I don't know about you, you're going to have to get back to me, but in 15 or 20 years, I'm very curious to know if you're like, high school reunion, let's go. Haven't seen these movies. It's like, ugh. So that was really great. And then the other reason that this role was a little bit different was because I actually got to wear some of my some of my me-made garments in the show, which is really cool. So the costumer of this show, her name is Mona May, and she is like a prolific costume designer. She was the wardrobe designer for Clueless, which is another like incredibly iconic show in terms of like fashion and the 90s and everything. So when she found out that I made my own clothes, she was like, you should bring, I cannot do her accent. You should bring some of your clothes in here and, we'll take a look at them. And it was just like, it's so fun when people are really interested in trying to bring some of what makes you a person in regular life into the work that you do. I don't have that many opportunities to do that. So there are a few pieces sprinkled throughout the show, like a couple of pairs of pants that I had made. And I think there might have been a top or a dress or something like that, which was really awesome.
So
I loved it.
Cool. I
Yeah,
feel like
it was great.
Such a personal role for you.
Yeah, this does absolutely feel like a very, very personal role for me. One of the most personal, or at least that I haven't written. Like I made a feature film with my friends, and that was the actual first time that I had played queer in film. But like I wrote it, so this is nice that somebody else wrote it, and I got to be a part of it.
Oh, so the pandemic has affected everyone in this country, in the world. How has it affected you more than just the show that you were filming?
I would say, I hate framing the pandemic in any kind of positive light because it sucks. And there are a lot of people dead that I wish that they weren't dead. Like I wish that this whole thing could have been handled in a very different way from the very beginning, so that the number of lives lost was much lower. Obviously, that is not the reality that we're living in, but there do tend to be positive things that come out of traumatic experiences or just really awful experiences in general. For me, one of them was having being able to spend more time with my partner. Like we had such like unfiltered quality time for so long, and we haven't had that in a long time. And actually, the year prior to the pandemic, I had been flying back and forth to Vancouver for a job for months. And I mean, like between 4 and 6 times a month, I was flying. I don't recommend it. I didn't like it. It was not cool. At least it was in the same time zone. It would have been really
Oh,
terrible if
but
it
that
was
would have,
like to the
wow.
East Coast. I wouldn't have been able to, I would have been a mess. So I had come off of, being at home for a week, being away for 2 weeks, being at home for a week, that sort of thing. So it was so nice to just be settled in one place. And again, because I am a maker, another really cool thing that came out of it was a friend of mine asked me if I wanted her pottery wheel because she didn't use it anymore. And I hadn't thrown pottery in years at that point. I like a long time ago I got into it and it was fun, and work ended up getting in the way. So all of a sudden we're in a pandemic and I have all this time in my life and I don't know what to do with it, and now I have a pottery wheel to use. And so I built this little pottery studio in like one of our storage areas, and I feel like I really found my pottery voice. It sounds so corny, but when you're an artist, like I've been an illustrator for a long time. I have a background in illustration, so I know what my drawings look like. I know what my fashion looks like. I know what my tastes are in so many different things. And I never knew what it was in pottery because I just hadn't been doing it for long enough. So this pandemic gave me an opportunity to really delve into like an art form that I really, really love. It's so much fun to me, and kind of find my own voice and my own style, and I feel very thankful for that. And I also feel thankful that my family has been pretty much healthy and safe for this whole pandemic. So I know that if I had had to deal with family members getting sick or being hospitalized or God forbid dying, it would have been a very different experience. So I've felt very fortunate this pandemic, as terrible as it's been. I think that we have mostly come out uh,
In one piece.
unscathed. Yeah, exactly.
So what's next for you?
Vaccination. So many people keep saying like what's next, and it's so hard to know because
Don't
I
know
think
what's
I just
happening.
we don't know what's happening. Yeah, my agent emailed like at all his clients the other day, and he was like, well, apparently we're at 60%, we're back to like 60% back to normal in Hollywood, which is shocking to me, but also like I guess exciting. It's so hard to know because part of me is like, nobody should be working yet until everybody's vaccinated. But another part of me is like, people have to pay their bills and the government is not taking care of people. And so people are having to still try and like survive and take care of their families and put food on the table and stuff. So I have no idea when, my world, my industry is going to be fully back. And so until then, I'm just like making sure all my people are taken care of. My dad is vaccinated. My mom got her first vaccination last week. I can't wait for myself and my partner to get vaccinated. And I'm just trying to do a lot of self care and maintain a good emotional state so that when we do transition back into regular life, because I think about that a lot too. We've all been cooped up in our homes for so long. And now when I do see people like for a little social distance gathering, I don't know how to act. Like I'm so excited to see them, but I feel so out of practice.
How do you like have a conversation with a human?
It's so I feel awkward and like too excited, and so then I want to like close my mouth and just be small, and then I'm like, don't do that, like you can be excited. It's all
Yeah.
just so weird. So that transition back into regular life, I know everything won't be what it was before the pandemic 100%, but a little bit of normalcy is exciting, and also a little it just makes me nervous. It just makes me nervous, that's all.
Yeah, they're starting to like say like, oh, we're opening up dining a little more. I'm like, I never thought this day would come.
I
Like, wait,
know.
what?
I know. It's so wild. And they're saying like, the numbers are making it seem like this makes sense to do. And I just feel like I'm along for the ride, but I have not eaten at a restaurant and I don't know how long, and I don't know how long it's going to take for me to be able to do that.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Could you tell everyone where they can find you on socials?
Yes. So you can find me. I am most active on Instagram. My handle is Jasika is try curious because I like to try things. And I am on Twitter at the Jasika Nicole. I would not recommend following me there. I don't have much to say. I mostly repost like political tweets that are significant to the community or something. But yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. Oh, and I have a website, jasikanicole.com, and I share a lot of like stuff about sewing. So if anybody's interested in getting into sewing, you should definitely check out my website.
Well, thank you so much again for joining me, and best of luck in your career and your
Thank you,
making.
Madison. I appreciate that so much. It was lovely to chat with you.